Minecraft has had several popular minigames over the years, and while many have fluctuated in popularity, one has basically just completely lost any and all hype it ever actually had. And I'm referring to survival games. So about 10 to 12 years ago, which is crazy by the way, it was huge on YouTube and on big multiplayer servers. So why is it no longer popular? So I've got, I would say, 4 points that I would want to discuss, but I might also have other smaller points that I kind of get into within these 4 bigger points. So the first point though that I want to make, and why I think ultimately survival games just isn't that popular, is the RNG element of it all. Simply put, survival games as a concept is a cool one, right? You spawn in, you've got maybe, well, it depends on how many players the server or whatever you're playing it on was, but let's say it was just 24, right? Like traditional Hunger Games. There was 24 players, and you had to be the last one standing by collecting the loot and getting the certain amount of gear and everything, and then winning at the very end by being the last one standing. A cool concept, a very simple one to understand, and it's easy enough to do, except the problem, of course, was with the RNG, that you would collect chests, but there was no guarantee that you would get good stuff within those chests, and usually there was a certain amount of good stuff within the entire loot pool of that game. Basically to stop it from being at the very end just people in full diamond armor just having a 1v1. Instead, there would maybe be only so many diamonds on the map. There would be so much iron armor on the map. And essentially, it would limit you to ensure that at the very end, the 1v1 would probably be between the two players with the best loot, but there wouldn't be a load of players who would survive till the end with all of this really good loot there. And that was a problem, because if there are only so many players who can do well within any one game, essentially, again, it heavily lends into RNG, or randomness, right? Because if you're a really good player at PvP, or really just anything within Minecraft that could help you in survival games, whether that's even just hotkeying quickly enough to be able to trap people with a lava bucket, or something like that, right? The RNG element was a pretty big deal within survival games, because you could open up, say, 8 chests and get nowhere near as good loot as someone who opened up 2. And that is a problem, because of the fact, how did that person even get those 2 chests to be so good? Oh wait, they didn't do anything to deserve that, they just kind of got it, and got lucky. And that means that they probably go on and win. And as well, obviously that then means that is it even that heavily skill-based at all? Chances are a lot of people would vary on their stance on that, in that you would say that someone with a stone sword and maybe some very basic armor, but they are the best PvPer in the world, would probably still beat someone with a diamond sword and full iron armor, but they're the worst PvPer in the world. Chances are, yeah, that would happen. Here's the thing though, that's a very extreme example. Most people who play on Minecraft multiplayer servers, there isn't a huge gap in the skill, or certainly there isn't at the top end, I wouldn't say. At the very top end, sure there is, but for an average game on a Minecraft multiplayer server, the skill gap isn't that insane. And so therefore, okay, yes, everyone goes and stomps the bad players and makes them sad, but then the good players, they're kind of just very similar in skill, and then it's heavily dependent on just who has the best loot. And that, obviously, is something that people don't like, and why survival games, in many ways, I would say, died in popularity, because there was other game modes that have come along since, on other servers, that have kind of got rid of the RNG element while keeping the thing that made survival games enjoyable, which was the PvP with border element, right? Where, like, you were forced inwards to be the last one standing. Another problem, though, with survival games was, of course, the maps. So, maps on survival games, I would say at this point, there is loads of them. But back when it was at its most popular, there actually wasn't that many that were popular, so to speak. Because there were certain servers that had survival games on there, and they all had their own maps and everything like that. But the maps that they had, like I say, there was a lot of overlap between server to server, and therefore the maps just became very repetitive very quickly. And again, in a lot of ways, I personally don't actually have a problem with this. I'm someone who plays MCC Island, and I play a lot of BattleBox, and BattleBox has a lot of very similar maps. Well, when I say very similar maps, I mean they have a pool of maps, and I've been playing them for so long now, well over a year, and I still play, so I don't really care. So, like, that to me isn't a problem, basically, that BattleBox has the same maps or anything like that. I just get on with it, I play it, I enjoy it. However, some people don't like the fact that with survival games, maybe there was like 5 different maps on a certain server. You would maybe play through so many maps and then you'd get bored. But then, is that really a problem? Because you think about so many other big games, like say Fortnite, which is a battle royale game at its core. Of course, there's other bits now to, I don't know, I haven't played Fortnite in ages. I just know that there's a lot of stuff now at this point. But there is one map, right? And then it changes from season to season. But for like 90 days or however long a Fortnite season is, you're just playing the same map over and over again. And yet it's still enjoyable. I enjoyed Fortnite when it was at its peak. So like, you know, that's kind of just my point, is that I don't think the maps is a reason why it died, but certainly I think some people will make that point, that the maps just got boring. They were repetitive, they were very similar, and yeah, that is probably true. So, make that what you will. But I think one of the key reasons why it actually ended up dying is that there is just better and cooler options elsewhere. And again, I've kind of touched on this already, but the fact is that pretty much every big minigame server now just has its own big minigame that is just cooler. Like, on Hypixel, for example, which I don't think Hypixel ever really had a big survival games minigame, and if it did, I certainly don't think it was ever the most popular. I don't really know. My point is, though, that people much prefer Bed Wars on Hypixel. I believe that's still, or maybe Bed Wars or Sky Wars, one of the two. But I'm fairly sure it's Bed Wars that is the most popular one. People just prefer that because it probably is a cooler overall game mode, because it's got more to it, you know, you've got to protect your bed. There isn't so much of the RNG element because of the fact you have to buy your own items. And everyone starts off with the exact same things. There is no real, I suppose, like, limitation to any one player except skill. And so therefore, I mean, okay, there was I believe there's a lot of hackers as well within Bed Wars, so maybe there is some limitations. But my point is that for the most part, it was based on skill. It wasn't based on RNG, and that is something that people liked, and it was a cool concept, Bed Wars. You know, you could survive for as long as you had a bed, and then the moment you lose your bed, you've got to survive forever, if not you lose. Pretty simple. And I think it's a cool idea. I think it's something which has probably been quite overdone at this point, and maybe some people are bored of. I was never really that into Bed Wars, because I can't bridge very well, and so I was never going to be good at it, but I think it's a cooler overall idea for a game than what survival games is. But another point to make here is that, and this is my final point, is that I still actually think survival games is popular, just not in the traditional sense of how it always was. You see, the concept of what survival games initially was to, you know, go into a map and loot up and then survive till the end. You still kind of get that within a lot of big Minecraft minigames that are still popular. On MCC Island, one of the more popular game modes is Sky Battle, and again, ultimately Sky Battle is very similar to like a Bed Wars crossed with survival games. You don't have a bed, you just spawn in. I mean, it's most similar to Sky Wars, which again is popular in Hypixel. But there's a border that moves in, and you have to survive until the end and be the last one, or, well, team, I suppose, in that case, standing. And I think overall that is a cool idea, but again, it is very similar to survival games. You have the hunger element, where you might just not have any steak left, and then, oh no, you can't regenerate your health, and it's a lot harder. And then as well as that, a lot of minigames in general are still popular. They're just made more now as downloads for maps that you can go and download online. For example, I've downloaded a minigame map that I'll probably just use as the thumbnail. And when I say minigame, I mean survival games map. That I'll probably use in the thumbnail for this, just to show what survival games maps now look like. But I believe this is now for like private survival games that people want to host with their friends and wider friend groups, I guess. But certainly on minigame servers, survival games as a whole has kind of died in popularity. And I don't think this is a terrible thing. I do think it's something where I think if MCC Island was to make a survival games mode, it would probably be pretty popular, but again, I don't think that it'll ever have the broad appeal that it once did, because, for one, Minecraft isn't as popular as what it once was, and then two, the survival games concept is just a flawed one, mainly because of the RNG. You could make the point that the maps are pretty boring. Even if you do all these really well-designed maps, you can still make the point that they're pretty boring, because they're the same every time. And then, yeah, there's just better and cooler options elsewhere. So, as a whole, is survival games ever going to be popular again? Maybe, but I don't really think it will. And so that's my stance on it. Anyway, in the comments, let me know how you feel about survival games. Would you want to see it become popular again, or do you miss playing it? Would you want to see a server with it on again? Let me know in the comments, and let me know any other minigames that you would actually like to see either become big again, or you think that it's just a cool idea, but has never really caught on with popularity. Anyway, bye.